looping images is really hard to do, unless you NodeOut.
Typically, the order of the node hierarchy is transformations with things like pegs, then the drawings, and then the compositing effects. But if you want to have the same drawing exist in two different places at once, the peg's on top. So you'd have to duplicate the drawing or clone it, and it's just more hassle to think about all that. So what if there was a way to put a peg underneath a drawing? Then it could be in two places at once. Or we could take a very absurd contraption and rather than hoping everything behaves itself from the top, we can have a foolproof parent grabbing everything at the bottom. Well, of course, you can. Here is the apply peg transformation. Put that between the drawing and the composite and pop a peg on that leftmost port to move it somewhere. Then just have a second string that goes straight to the composite, and look! It's in two places at once. Amazing. Here's an example of a 9-slice tile, so you can draw looping elements. Guaranteed. We need a bit of a play area to work in, so I like to put a composite at the top with a single string leading to another composite at the bottom here, and we can put whatever we want into this space in the middle. I'm gonna make a square here, and in the node view I'm gonna get 8 apply peg transformations, all with pegs in them of course. Change the new peg in layer properties from 3D path to separate and turn off animation mode. And carefully arrange these other squares, which are of course still the same one, perfectly around the original. Up, down, left, right, and the 4 diagonals. I can be even more accurate by punching these numbers into the layer properties manually. Set the Y value to 16 and the X value to 12. Weird little bit of back-end harmony stuff is the measurements of up and down and left and right don't equal each other. 12 units to the right is further than 12 units up. If you turn the grid on, you'll see exactly why. This is the field chart. Every one of these little rectangles is the same ratio as the stage itself. It's an old traditional animator's tool for being able to map out camera movements and scene planning on paper, and continues to live into the digital age. Little confusing at first to remember these different numbers, but hey, look at the field chart. There they are. There's the numbers. After selecting them all, press Command H to create a composite that automatically connects all of them together in an appropriate order and connect all to the right port. Alright, so now that all that's set up, draw in the middle and you'll notice, of course, it appears in all 9 of the squares. So I can start painting my repeating element, do whatever I need to make sure it's seamless. The beauty of this though is it doesn't matter if I start physically painting off the edge of my middle section. If I'm painting off here to the left, like if I turn all the other ones off, I'm not, but that's okay because we're going to cut down to the central tile in the middle. We just need to make a new blank layer and make a new square that is exactly the right size. Fortunately, because we've been working to field chart value increments, we just need to make something that fits those particular values. So selecting the rectangle tool and in tool properties, turn on the grid snapping here and make sure the grid is turned on in the camera view. I will draw from this point in the top left at an X value of -6 and a Y value of +8 and move down diagonally to the right of +6, -8. If you're paying attention, you might have noticed that 0 being in the middle means that we've actually moved 12 units across X and 16 units across the Y, making the shape perfectly in the middle. All we got to do now is turn it into a mat, put a cutter underneath absolutely everything, and our new square mat goes into the left-hand port, which of course removes that middle tile. So we just double click on this little mask symbol on the side here, it inverts the mat, and now the centerpiece is all we can see. This means the finished drawing is only going to be visible through the original dimensions. Look at that. If we want to move this tile around in a scene, we could put a peg at the top of the drawing itself. There's all this stuff sort of hanging around. It can be a little risky. So personally, I like to put yet another apply peg transformation at the very bottom with a peg in the left-handmost port, of course, and group the whole thing except for that last little peg. It sticks out the top of the contraption, so I can grab whatever's going into there and move it around. I'll show you a transparency mod now so we can see the middle square just fine, but it will fade out all of the others. Quite simply, put a transparency node underneath all 8 of the surrounding components. put a transparency into the top left module here, and I'll put a keyframe on the first frame and set it to whatever I want from down here in the timeline. This is important because when I copy and paste this node and plug it into all 8 of the surrounding modules, leaving the middle one empty of course, now they are all clones, not duplicates. This means that that transparency keyframe is going to be shared amongst them all. If I change this value, all of them will be shared every single time, giving me a central location to work from. Last objective here is a manual tile switch modification. Notice this tile set that I've been making, it's got grass on top. It's only meant to be tiled left to right. Having these ones up and down is not getting me the result that I want. All I have to do here is add a composite node underneath each one of the main modules here, and they just act as switches. If I go through and just deactivate the top 3 and the middle 3 in this case, then my tile switch is just going to be 3 across, which makes it very comfortable to work with for this particular set. And there you have it, a nice slice tile. Thank you for joining me for an episode of NodeOut. Do the subscriptions and that if you're interested in others in this series. And working files are available to patrons if you want to be able to get hold of everything you've seen in this video. If you can't be bothered building the contraption yourself, then it will just be there as a template ready to go. Not to mention all the other examples and bits and bops. Thank you again for your support. Hope to see you again.